The Suspenseful Matchmaker. In the center of a busy city, where darkness hides secrets and rumors of destiny drift through the air, there lives a person known only as the Weaver. They are an enigma, a quiet power who connects people meant to be together, using invisible threads. Detective Jameson knew the city's dark corners intimately. He had seen its crimes and heard its secrets. But when a series of brutal murders shook the city to its core, Jameson sensed something deeper at play. Each victim had recently found love through a peculiar matchmaking service whispered about in hushed tones, the Weaver's threads. As Jameson sorted through the clues, doubt started to bother him. He had always trusted facts and clear signs, but now he had a mystery that didn't make sense. The Weaver's threads seemed innocent, but there was no question they were linked to the killings. The detective's journey into Weaver's world had just begun, leading him down a path where love and death intertwined in ways he never imagined possible. One rainy evening, Detective Jameson sat in his dimly lit office, staring at the crime scene photos spread across his desk. The latest victim, a young woman named Emily, had been found in an alley, her body marked with the signature brutality of the serial killer haunting the city. As Jameson studied the case files, a pattern emerged that caught his attention. Each victim had recently been involved in a relationship of short-lived, passionate affairs that ended abruptly with their deaths. What troubled Jameson was the common thread linking them all, a matchmaking service known as the Weaver's Threads. The website promised to connect perfect couples in a strange way, saying there were invisible connections between people that could be wonderful or scary. Jameson didn't believe it at first and thought it was just a rumor, but as he looked closer at when things happened, he started to wonder if it might be real. He recalled the conversation with Emily's grieving friends, who mentioned her newfound happiness after meeting someone through the Weaver's threads. They spoke of promises made and futures planned in stark contrast to the horrific fate she met soon after. Jameson's intuition sharpened as he reviewed the evidence. Could there be a connection between the Weaver's matches and the murders? His mind raced with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. Outside his window, loud crashes of thunder echoed his troubled feelings. Taking a deep breath, Jameson decided something important. He would explore the Weaver's world further, even though it might be dangerous and unpredictable. He didn't realize it yet, but this decision would throw him into a place where the difference between love and death became unclear, and where the idea of destiny itself would be doubted. As he gathered his coat and prepared to leave, a sense of foreboding settled over him. The investigation had just begun, but already Jameson sensed that the Weaver's threads held secrets that could unravel everything he thought he knew about crime, justice, and the fragile ties that bind us all. Detective Jameson's hunt for the truth behind the Weaver's threads took him on a twisty path filled with rumors and hints. He dug through records, talked to people who might know something, and followed the victim's last moves, all to find any scrap of information that could explain this strange dating service. Still, the more Jameson looked into it, the more worried he became. The Weaver's threads seemed innocent at first, like a nice story about destiny and love. But underneath that nice appearance, there was something bad that he couldn't just forget about. He visited the homes of several victims' families, hoping to find answers in their grief-stricken faces. Each encounter brought him closer to understanding the impact of the Weaver's influence. Families spoke of sudden changes in their loved ones' behavior, joy followed by paranoia, optimism tainted with fear. Jameson rapidly wrote down his thoughts, trying to figure out how the feelings of the victims related to their deaths. The clues seemed to show a pattern. The people affected by the weaver's threads weren't just romantically involved, they also all felt like something bad was going to happen. Even though there was more and more proof, Jameson still wasn't sure. He liked things to be proven and real, and the idea of magic controlling people's lives didn't fit with his way of thinking. He ignored clues that seemed too unbelievable and explained away people's stories about weird things as just lucky or unlucky chances. But deep down, a seed of uncertainty took root. The shadows seemed to grow longer, and whispers of unseen forces echoed in the corners of his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the weaver's threads than met the eye, that perhaps, hidden within its tangled webs, lay a truth he wasn't ready to face. As night fell over the city once again, Jameson returned to his desk, surrounded by stacks of case files and photographs. The weaver's threads loomed over him like a specter, weaving a tapestry of love and death that threatened to ensnare all who dared to unravel its mysteries. Jameson groaned, knowing he couldn't ignore the truth anymore. The next part of his investigation would lead him to a more dangerous place. There, the difference between what's real and what's just a story would become unclear, and the answers he wanted were hidden in darkness. Little did he know, the weaver was watching, weaving its threads around him, drawing him closer to a truth that would test his beliefs, his sanity, and ultimately, his very existence. The deeper Detective Jameson dug into the case, the stranger he started to feel. Horrible dreams filled his nights, showing him the last moments of the victims in frightening detail. He'd wake up soaked in sweat, his heart racing, and the feeling of fear wouldn't leave him for a long time. During the day, his thoughts wandered uncontrollably to the weaver's threads. He found himself obsessing over the connections he uncovered, poring over old case files with a newfound intensity. Colleagues noticed his distraction, but Jameson brushed off their concerns with forced smiles and casual remarks. Loneliness slowly started to affect his life. He stopped going out to socialize and would rather stay alone in his office working late. His mind, which used to be very clear, became confused with worry and suspicion. He questioned everything he found, every bit of evidence. Fear nibbled at the corners of his mind. He felt like unseen eyes were watching him from the darkness. He convinced himself it was just stress, the pressure of a never-ending investigation that kept him up all night. But deep down, Jameson knew something had changed within him. The weaver's influence, once dismissed as mere superstition, now felt palpable, its tendrils reaching into his thoughts and dreams. He couldn't deny the connection any longer. The weaver's threads had ensnared him, just as they had the victims before him. He was at his wits' end. He turned to people who knew about strange and mysterious things, hoping they could explain the weird events that were scaring him. Their confusing warnings and old stories only made him more worried, and it became harder and harder to tell what was real and what wasn't. Still, in the darkness, a spark of determination ignited within Jameson. He understood he couldn't go back, couldn't give up on the truth he chased, despite the dangers. With every discovery, every step closer to the center of the secret, he neared a face-off that would decide not only his work, but his entire life. As the city slept, Jameson stared into the abyss of uncertainty, steeling himself for the battles yet to come. The weaver's threads had woven a web of intrigue and terror around him, and he was determined to unravel it, no matter the toll it took on his mind and soul. Little did he know, the weaver watched from the shadows, observing his every move with a patience born of eternity. weaving new threads that would entwine their fates in ways neither could foresee. Detective Jameson's descent into the weaver's world brought with it a creeping sense of isolation. Once surrounded by colleagues and friends, he now found himself alone in his pursuit of the truth. The whispers of conspiracy and Weaver's influence had alienated him from those he once trusted. His office became a sanctuary of solitude, the walls closing in around him as he immersed himself in the labyrinthine depths of the investigation. He pushed away concerned colleagues and well-meaning friends, their words of caution falling on deaf ears. Dread became a close friend to him, hiding in the back of his mind all the time. He felt like someone was watching him everywhere he went, like invisible ghosts following him every step. Even shadows seemed to stretch and turn in a strange way whenever he was around, like a silent warning of the hidden dangers. He couldn't sleep well at night. He kept waking up from bad dreams where he saw the victims dying. He could hear their screams in his head. He woke up every morning feeling scared and not wanting to deal with another unknown day. The city itself seemed to mirror his confusion. Streets he once knew well now felt strange, filled with rumors of the weaver's power. Every narrow passage seemed to hold hidden things, and every dark spot could be hiding a danger. Despite his growing unease, Jameson pressed on. He scoured old records, pieced together timelines, and followed faint trails of evidence that led deeper into the heart of the mystery. The weaver's threads taunted him, their presence palpable yet elusive, weaving a web of deceit and danger. But amidst the fear and isolation, a flicker of determination burned within Jameson. He couldn't abandon the investigation, couldn't let fear dictate his actions. The truth awaited him, buried beneath layers of deception and illusion. As he stood alone in his office, surrounded by the remnants of his once orderly life, Jameson steeled himself for what lay ahead. The weaver's threads had ensnared him in their intricate web, but he refused to be their puppet. The time for answers was drawing near, and he would confront the darkness that threatened to consume him, no matter the cost. Unbeknownst to him, the weaver observed with a quiet laugh, creating new threads of destiny that would bind their lives together in a way they couldn't avoid. Armed with the fragments of knowledge he had gathered, Detective Jameson set out to confront the enigmatic figure known as the Weaver. He traced the elusive threads of fate that had led him to this moment, each step a gamble against forces beyond his comprehension. The meeting was set in a hidden alley, dark and full of the sounds of the city. Jameson's heart pounded as he walked closer, feeling both excited and scared. There, in the darkness, stood a mysterious figure. The weaver felt very real, a quiet power that seemed to change what was real around them. Jameson straightened his back, getting ready for the face-off that would decide how his search ended. "You've been meddling in affairs that do not concern you, Detective," the weaver's voice echoed softly, carrying a hint of amusement and ancient wisdom. Jameson looked them in the eye, his voice calm, even though he was really upset. "People are being killed because of what you're doing. You don't care that innocent people are dying, you just act like it's no big deal." The weaver regarded him with an inscrutable expression, as if weighing his words against some unseen scale of justice. "Love and death are intertwined, Detective. It is the balance of the universe, a dance as old as time itself." Jameson squeezed his hands into fists at his hips. Anger burned inside him, barely contained. "This isn't fair. We can't just lose people because of some fate." A small smile appeared on the weaver's mouth, showing a hint of something more than not caring. "Justice is an idea that people hold onto because they don't know everything. The weaver's threads help souls find their true way, creating a giant picture that you can't even imagine. As they spoke, Jameson felt the weight of truth settle over him like a shroud. Weaver's words resonated with a haunting clarity, challenging everything he thought he knew about justice, fate, and the fragility of human existence. But amidst the uncertainty, a flicker of defiance burned within Jameson. He refused to accept the Weaver's twisted justification, to surrender to a fate dictated by unseen forces. With a surge of determination, he made his choice. "You may manipulate fate, but you won't control me," Jameson declared, his voice echoing with resolve. "I will unravel your web of deceit and bring an end to the suffering you've caused." The Weaver didn't show any surprise, their face calm and distant. "You've decided what to do," they said. "But remember, every clue you follow changes the situation in unexpected ways." After those mysterious words, Weaver disappeared into the darkness, leaving Jameson alone in the narrow passage. Their meeting had revealed the true power Weaver held. Now, a final showdown loomed, one that would challenge Jameson's bravery and his beliefs. As he returned to the bustling streets of the city, Jameson knew the battle was far from over. The Weaver's threads continued to weave their intricate patterns, binding souls in a dance of love and death that defied rational explanation. Now, more determined than ever, and with a burning desire for the truth, Detective Jameson promised himself to face the evil hidden in the city's dark corners. The Weaver had forced him to think about what he had to give up to control his own fate, and he wouldn't back down, ready to deal with what came next. Little did he know, the Weaver watched from afar, their threads of fate poised to entwine once more, in a final confrontation that would shape the future of all who dared to challenge the boundaries of fate. Detective Jameson paused at a critical point. He could still hear the sounds of his fight with the Weaver. The decision he had to make was clear and tough. It would affect his future and the lives of everyone the Weaver was involved with. As he walked through the city streets, lost in thought, Jameson replayed the Weaver's cryptic words. Each step brought him closer to a realization. He could no longer ignore the consequences of his pursuit, nor the sacrifices that lay ahead. The powerful Weaver controlled his destiny, its unseen strings trapping him in a future he couldn't ignore. But even in his fear, a tiny spark of hope ignited inside him, a determination to fight the Weaver's plans and find his own way out of the gloom. But fighting back was dangerous. The Weaver's influence was strong, like an ancient magic controlling people's lives in ways no one could quite understand. Jameson knew that defying the Weaver meant putting himself at risk, facing forces too powerful for him. Yet, standing at the edge of the unknown, Jameson decided what to do. With firm determination, he promised to save those trapped by the Weaver, to reveal the truth hidden beneath the complicated mess of lies and tricks. He sought out allies among those who had survived the Weaver's influence, forging alliances in the shadows where hope and despair intertwined. Together, they pieced together fragments of knowledge and whispered secrets, preparing for the final confrontation that loomed on the horizon. But as the days turned to nights and the city breathed with a rhythm of its own, Jameson felt the weight of his decision pressing down upon him. Sacrifices would be made, lives forever changed by the choices he had made in pursuit of justice and truth. The Weaver observed Jameson from a distance, their eyes glued to him with a mix of wonder and entertainment. They knew the detective's determination would be challenged, his bravery stretched to the very end against impossible obstacles. And so, as the battle lines were drawn and the city held its breath, Detective Jameson prepared for the ultimate sacrifice. the price of defying fate and challenging the Weaver's dominion over life and death. He didn't realize it, but his decisions in the next few days would have a big impact, affecting everything everywhere forever. The mysterious Weavers were waiting to see what he would do next. They were creating a future where everyone would be connected in a powerful, important way. Detective Jameson faced the Weaver. Their fight was finally happening, deep within the city's most hidden alley. The air was thick with nervousness, and it felt like something important was about to go down. The Weaver gave him a mysterious smile, their body moving slightly like figures flickering in the dim streetlights. "You've traveled a long way, Detective," they whispered, their voice sounding very old and wise. Jameson squared his shoulders, steeling himself against the Weaver's eerie presence. "It ends here," he declared, his voice echoing with determination. "No more lives will be sacrificed for your twisted games." A hint of a smile crossed the Weaver's face, their eyes seeing right through Jameson's determination. "There's no stopping what's going to happen, Detective. The Weaver's plans control everyone, leading people where they need to be." But Jameson wouldn't give in. He gathered all his bravery and confronted the Weaver's power, daring to fight against the destiny that trapped them. He knew the danger, understood the trouble he could cause, but he wouldn't retreat. In a swift and decisive move, Jameson unveiled the evidence he had gathered, the testimonies of survivors, the ancient texts that spoke of the Weaver's origins, the hidden truths buried beneath layers of deceit. Each piece of the puzzle fell into place, painting a picture of manipulation and suffering orchestrated by the Weaver's hand. The narrow alley echoed with the fight between two powerful people. Their beliefs clashed silently. The city around them didn't notice. But a huge fight was happening, a fight that would decide the future of everyone somehow connected to these mysterious Weaver's threads. In a final act of defiance, Jameson severed the Weaver's hold on the city, unraveling the threads of fate with a single stroke of bravery and sacrifice. The Weaver recoiled, their power fading as the truth emerged from the shadows. As the first light of day touched the tall buildings of the city, Jameson stood by himself, surrounded by the things left behind from his fight. He was tired, but he had won. The Weaver's power was broken, its control gone like threads blown away by the new energy moving through the city. But the victory came at a cost. Lives had been lost, sacrifices made in the name of justice and truth. Jameson mourned for those who had fallen, their memories etched in the fabric of his soul. But even though everything was broken, there was still hope. It was like a delicate flower growing through a crack in the sidewalk. The city started to get better, like a wound slowly closing up. The people who protected the city watched over it all. As he walked away from the alley, Detective Jameson carried with him the lessons learned and the scars of his battle against the Weaver. The city's shadows whispered tales of his courage and sacrifice, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of darkness. Up in the sky, the stars shone brighter than ever, almost as if they were celebrating the triumph down on Earth. The villain's plan had been foiled, but the tale of Detective Jameson and his city would live on. It showed how strong love, bravery, and the refusal to give up can be, even against destiny.